Every time he takes his pants off, someone has a scary experience.
I've been the devil's hole, and all I got is a scream that I got to put on my balls. Oi! Let me out! It's dark in here!
What the hell is that?
How terrible is that? Johnny would haunt the meat locker.
That sounds like a really funny haunted house to create.
If you are looking for a dead serious podcast with dry, humorless people, I'm afraid you are in the wrong place. This is Midnight Hollow, and we will dive into some weird, creepy, and downright strange stories with a twist of humor, bad puns, and a whole lot of laughs. So sit back and enjoy the podcast. Welcome to Midnight Hollow, episode 5 of season 2. In this Halloween-inspired episode, we will talk about the old Summit Street Mansion, scary experiences in Allegheny Woods with your pants on, witnessing events I'm already screwing up. Witnessing events leading up to a history-changing murder, and locals that are weighing in on lore and legends around Western New York. We will wrap up the episode with a 2-pack of quick-fire questions, a few creepy and gross stories. Thanks, Lisa. And, of course, with a story that could only be from what state? Florida. Actually, we're going to switch that around. That's not going to be the ending story.
Do you just want to re-record all?
I find it amusing that you.
Yeah, if anyone knows the podcast, they know that that's what I do.
You literally just announced it.
Yeah. So.
Also, I find it funny you think I have my pants on.
No. Oh.
Can
Plot
we call
twist.
it Halloween?
Halloweeny.
Halloweeny.
No, like
Halloween.
Halloweeny.
Midnight. Never mind. Screwed that up too.
Wieners.
So, really quick, I apologize for how long we were away? 6 months? 7 months? 8 months? I forget the last time we...
3.
What is time really?
Yeah,
is time's a construct?
It's only humans that put things to time, and everything else that dies. But I had to get some shit straight in my life. I already swore. Some crap straight in my life, and finally I kind of got everything on the straight and narrow, and everyone was ready.
What are you?
It's not like I was ready to rap. Everyone was ready and raring to go to start this back up again, and I figured the best way to do it is let's do a Halloween episode. So you will get it the week of Halloween. Well, actually, you'll be listening to it now. I'm screwing it all up. This is fantastic. I really did pick up where I left off.
You're the guy that edits, so it doesn't matter. You can screw up all you want.
A few changes here. I am going to just become the MC. I'm not going to really be adding original content. I'm going to let my podcasters here, my associates, kind of dig deep and figure out what they want to talk about.
I thought I was a friend.
You're a special friend. So I'm just going to try and keep the podcast rolling, unlike what I'm doing right now. Kind of add in where be the devil's advocate and stuff like that. So that's going to be my role now. And then the three the
three
amigos.
the three amigos or
Musketeers.
amiguettes. Would it be amiguettes if you were?
Musketeers.
Well, no, you would be
No.
amigo. So
Whatever, I could be a amiguette. It's 2019.
Why can't it just be
Why can't
gender
it just be
neutral?
Yeah,
2019?
true.
Call me daddy.
if you want.
So,
Or mommy.
Sorry.
Uncle. I like uncle.
all right, so I'm going to introduce. I'm going to move on here. Introduce our gallery here. Our longest tenure here, Nikki. How you doing today?
I'm happy to be the longest.
That's what I always say, but hey, that's just a whole other story. Lisa, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
And Johnny,
I'm
The
apparently
shortest.
The shortest.
you are the thorn in between
Everyone's
two roses.
side.
Yeah,
Wow.
you're actually, or you could be the meat in the sandwich.
He's the pickle in the middle.
Viewers at home, you can't see my face, but I'm sure you can imagine my
He's
face.
the Yeedar Haw.
We are going to start off with the Johnny, if that's okay with you. We're going to start down in Lockport.
Johnny.
Whoa, pressure.
Yes, it's all you. It's on you. And we're going to talk about what's it called again?
The Summit Street Mansion. Well, it's not really a mansion anymore, but 325 Summit Street. If that person happens to listen, sorry to disclose your address there, but that's a place in Lockport that supposedly it's haunted. And it was raised in 1834, so it's an old farmhouse, and it was used for many different things besides the farmhouse. It was supposedly a site of a slave rebellion, which they can't confirm that because it was raised in 1834, and slavery was abolished before then, so that doesn't make much sense. But it was a stop on the Underground Railroad, and they found different places inside the house that they can pretty much attest to this. But the main reason that the story is that it's haunted is that it was host to a tramp hotel. So, no, not those kind of tramps.
Oh, okay.
Don't get excited.
Demonetization.
Don't get excited. A tramp hotel. So basically it was like a place where, so they had the building, and then there was a couple different barns on the property, and it's a very big property. And one of the barns that was far away from the main building, a lot of hobos used to sleep in it at night, find a good place to sleep. It burned to the ground with a bunch of them in it. And I guess the fire was so intense that the remains that they found of people were just like charred chunks, which they then buried.
Chunks?
Chunks. They didn't say chunks. That's my word. So it made it more gruesome. But so they buried these pieces in the cemetery that's also on the property, Old Summit Cemetery. So the property has a cemetery on it as well, like a small cemetery.
It's a big ass property.
Yeah, it's very big. So that's where the story of like all these hauntings come from.
I'm sorry, I have to say it. I beat Lisa to it.
Aw, Jim, no.
Lisa's always the
Jim.
first one to say that's what she said, but I think
stop.
okay, go on, John.
I had to hazelnut one.
So that's the that's the whole.
Did you hear what you said? She hazelnutted.
I hazelnutted.
Oh my God.
In honor.
In honor.
Why, is that what she used to say?
Oh,
Rest
yeah.
in pasta.
Oh, Jim, no.
Aw, Jim, no. Jim, no, stop.
Is it her birthday?
I don't know
yesterday
why it's like a 1920s type of an accent that I have to do it in. She.
Like
Stop.
Judy Garland, darling.
And it's really mad now.
Come outstairs and see me sometime.
I don't think she would say that. Well, I don't know. Maybe she would. I have no idea.
Scandalo.
I'm sorry, John. Continue,
Talk about
please.
your chunks.
Yeah, chunks.
Oh, so that's the gist of the story. There's been, reports of your normal strange noises. People have claimed that they've seen other people walking across the property at night without anybody really being there. Everybody in the area that's ever gone to it says that they have like an eerie feeling when they go to it, and it just creeps people out. But it's something that's local that you could check out. And from what I understand, this article that I was reading on it that we could probably post if we wanted to.
Oh yeah, I will.
A gentleman has visited it, like a local historian has visited it, and the owner of it now is actually, from what I understand, fairly open to people talking to them about it. So.
Maybe we should go there.
We should do some field trips.
That's actually one of my questions, is if you can actually visit it, or do you have to schedule a time?
Well, it's a private owner. It's
Yeah.
somebody's house now because it's been like remodeled and everything like that. But there are still, pieces of the old house there. One of the things is inside the basement, there is a concrete slab from the Underground Railroad where they had raised it up. It doesn't have a passage underneath it because it's been filled in with like sand and rubble. And they're like, that's the only sand on the property. So obviously there was something there that they filled in. But that supposedly goes from there all the way out to the canal. And supposedly somewhere along the canal, there is brick laid over the passage where it comes out, because it supposedly went from the basement all the way out to the canal, because the property's on the canal. So I'm tempted to like go to the canal and just kind of like troop around and see if I can find something.
Do it. Bring a camera.
All right.
Pictures there didn't happen. And I'm talking about the canal thing, nothing else.
Burner phone.
Yeah, burner phone. Be the Loch Ness Monster hunter. Throw some drugs around and take some crazy flip phone pictures.
Okay.
We do not endorse people taking drugs and recording canals with their flip phone.
Yeah, if you see garbage floating in there, be like, "Hey, it's the Loch Ness in our loch."
Yeah. The Lockport Loch Ness.
So did you have another question, Lisa?
I kind of just answered it. I asked if you had ever been there before. Or I was wondering if you'd been there before.
No, I myself have not.
I'm just wondering because you said that the one place where the hobos burned up and they turned into chunks. That was kind of far away from the house. Now I'm wondering why couldn't they just let people go there? Or is there like nothing there anymore? Or is that completely gone? Or is that just a graveyard?
That's gone. That was like 1,000 feet away from the main building. There was like a couple different barns on it. I think one of the barns that's like right adjacent to the building is still there. But from what I've read about it, I didn't get too much of how the layout currently is outside of the house itself. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Obviously, the barn that burned to the ground's gone, though. You know, that's what happens when stuff burns and makes chunks.
Right. I was just wondering if they put the graveyard there or something, because that would really make it super creepy.
Yeah, actually, the graveyard's not where the barn is.
Oh,
The
okay.
graveyard's, but it's on the property.
Okay.
So it's like right part of it.
Right. And then you kind of snuck in that you wanted to talk about pants questionable issues or things that happened at the Allegheny Forest.
You were asking me about, your own scary experiences. I was like, I never had like a scary experience. And then I thought about it and I was like, oh yeah, what the frick? The one time I was camping.
Every time he takes his pants off, someone has a scary experience.
Wow.
I mean, how much time in the podcast do we
by
have?
the size.
That's it.
They're like, wow, that's so small.
Your ego.
They're like, that's so small. The one time I was out in Allegheny camping with a buddy of mine, and we actually had our pants on. And so we were kind of in the middle of nowhere, and this was down in the woods in Pennsylvania. It had to be like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and we're sitting around the campfire. And the next thing you know, we seen like a light moving through the woods. Now, we're in like the middle. When I say the middle of nowhere, I mean like the middle of nowhere. Nobody was hiking to where we were in the middle of the night. The chances of that happening were like slim to none. Especially strange because a light, if you're using a light to walk through the night at dark, it's a light that gives off light. So you're trying to illuminate the area around you. And this didn't really give off any light. It was kind of it was extremely bright looking at it, but there was like no ambient light being given off by it. It only lasted like 10 seconds, and it was like whitish type, purple type hued light. And it didn't bounce back and forth, yet it was moving. So it's not like somebody was walking.
Like with a lantern or something?
Yeah, or you know what I mean? And then it was gone, and that was it. And me and him were both creeped out as hell by it, and we actually were like screaming, hello, hello, hello. We had our guns with us, and we're like shooting our guns off into the air like, some crazy people or something like that. But it made my hair stand at the time. And
So did you hear anyone say,
"Get off my lawn"?
no, nobody said anything. Nobody replied. Nothing was there. We were shining lights over in the area because it was fairly close. It was probably only like at most 100 yards away.
okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Aliens.
I have
It could have been an alien.
Alien.
No, I have a new soundboard now.
He's very eager to
try it out.
Do it in your 20s accent.
get off my lawn. That's not really, but I guess that'll work.
All right, Nikki and Lisa, do you want to do scissors, rocks, and papers?
Did you ask us if we want a scissor?
Yeah, that's all I heard.
Wow.
That was
I'm not saying no.
Wow.
This is the best podcast
Ever.
we are never gonna get advertising
No.
ever.
We're just gonna cut that one out.
Oh, see?
Snip,
See what you did
snip.
there? Well, we could get advertising for, like,
Scissors.
I don't know, school.
Friskers picks us up.
Pornhub.
Where you and your girlfriend can scissor. They're like, wait, what does that mean?
Joanne Fabrics.
After they advertise, what does that mean? Why are people like coming in naked and?
No one's coming in naked.
All right.
No one.
No one.
So who wants to go next?
I will, because you have a personal story. Mine isn't
Okay.
personal to me.
Okay, so Nikki's going to talk about kind of people weighing in on local legends.
Yeah, so I questioned people in Buffalo if they had any sort of spooky Halloween type experiences here, and we got a couple of good answers. My pants were on for all of these.
That's out. No, that's not. No, you're not even wearing pants.
I'm wearing tights.
Well, that's not really pants. Those are hose.
What did you just call me?
That's. Well, you're more than one. You're more than a hoe. You're a hose.
I'm a hose. If you're in like South Buffalo, it's hose. Okay, so the first one isn't
racist.
really lore, but it is like a little weird part of Buffalo history. Someone said that 300 American soldiers froze to death in a camp during the War of 1812, and their bodies were relocated to a meadow, which today sits in the Delaware Golf Course. The burial site is marked by a boulder and 2 willow trees near hole number 4, which I know exactly where this is because I used to hang out on the golf course all the time, and I've sat on that boulder, and I didn't know that's what it was. They also discovered a mass grave near UB South, and there are remains from hundreds of individuals believed to have come from a Buffalo poorhouse.
So
And-
they would die and they just dump them there?
Yeah, I guess so.
Ugh.
And then, kind of with the same theme, City Honors is supposedly built on an old cemetery as well. And when they built their new addition, they kept finding bodies that hadn't been moved when the original and second version of the building were built. That's a little creepy if you're going to school on top of
Wait, excuse for bad grades.
burial ground. I know, I couldn't do it. There was a ghost bothering me.
Or that'd be a great place to try and get some ghost sex.
Ghost sex.
Because we've had like 3 or 4 stories on that.
Still haven't got it yet.
Pedophilia?
Me either.
If it's
Yeah,
a
spectrophilia.
ghost?
Time is irrelevant.
So, supposedly, there's also a legend about, I've never heard this before, Old Man Chestnut or Chester.
You need to say that in 1920s accent.
Yeah,
Old Man
Old
Chestnut.
Man Chestnut. This person said that their school took them up to a trip on Chestnut Ridge. Their daycare took them to, why are they taking a daycare to Chestnut Ridge? When they were like 7, and told them about a homicidal hermit who lived in the woods there.
Wait, they're talking about that to these kids?
Yes.
Like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And that if anyone got too close to his shack, he would come out and kill them.
Oh, that's one way to keep kids in line.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think the
that's-
spooky part of that is like our child care system in Buffalo.
It's not the story. It's the fact that they took him there and told him that story.
Another one is about the Niagara Gorge and Devil's Hole here because...
Hole. Sounds like my ex.
Jam, no. Jam.
She had the devil's hole. Anyways, go on.
We're never going to get sponsored.
Literally, this podcast took a turn and then drove off a cliff.
We could get sponsored by like Massengill or something, right?
Pornhub. We
Yeah,
get
porn.
sponsored
Oh.
by Pornhub.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Winner chicken dinner. Thank you very much for that. I think I'll contact them tonight, see what they say.
Don't.
Well, at least since they can't see you guys, we
Yeah.
might have a shot.
Well,
Oh, yes, Nikki. Yes.
well, obviously you haven't been on Pornhub lately because there's some nasty shit on there, so we'd probably be an upgrade. Right, Johnny?
We're wholesome.
Wholesome.
Speak for yourself. I was on that shit this morning.
Oh, God.
I was too. I was
That.
watching Belle Delphine. But go on.
The gorge. So apparently, when we had Native American tribes living here before we drove them all out,
Agreed.
they lived near Niagara Falls and had a lot of legends and stories about the falls being dangerous and cursed. And they said that the god of thunderstorms lived in a cave behind the falls, and then there was a maid of the mist type of goddess who sacrificed herself by going over the falls in a canoe. And then at the other end of the gorge is Devil's Hole, and the Senecas believe that the Devil's Hole is a cave that's a portal to the underworld, which is kind of like a yin and yang. Like it's the parallel of the falls feeding life into the region, and then the Devil's Hole is like the cave down to the underworld.
So the falls are like the god, and then the devil's hole is the hell, heaven and hell. Heaven
Yeah.
and hell.
I've been to that cave.
Have you?
Yes, I
A
absolutely
lot
have.
of people do go to Devil's Hole.
Absolutely have.
It's like a big tourist destination here. So I wonder if we
The
can
devil's hole.
see any spooky things that happen.
A lot of times.
Talking about.
I'm sorry. I've been the devil's hole, and all I got is this cream that I got to put on my balls to
my
show for it.
God.
So go on.
Now we're going to be sponsored by like a tennis ball company.
Or
Sweaty balls.
sweaty balls, yes.
And then the last one is kind of creepy. So Father Baker, if you're from Buffalo,
You know him.
you know him,
If you misbehaved as a kid, you would be sent to Father Baker's.
which is, yeah, like the big threat is like you've been like scared straight by Father Baker.
Baker.
Because he ran an orphanage and apparently was really terrible to the kids there.
Yeah. And I remember when I was younger, he was seen as being like very progressive and great
Yes.
and like very nice to the children. But then it's been coming out that, especially like in the earlier years, that it wasn't. And it was a very abusive situation for a lot of children. and that he wasn't so progressive and wonderful.
I wonder how many.
A priest abusing kids. Who would have thought?
No. He is up for, what is it called, canonization, which is when you are eligible for sainthood, and you have to perform like 3 miracles in your lifetime. And so where this gets a little creepy is that when his body was being examined in the late 80s, early 90s, they found high levels of arsenic and formaldehyde deep in his body tissue. And the researchers concluded that either way, he was either knowingly ingesting these chemicals prior to his death so that like the preservation of his corpse and how well it was maintained could be seen as a miracle, and is for like a lot of saints is one of their miracles, like how pristine their body condition is for however long after they died.
Yeah, add it to your bran muffin,
Yeah, a little
A
arsenic
little orange
here and
juice
there.
and bran muffin, arsenic, and
Formaldehyde in your toothpaste.
Yeah.
So they think that he was either ingesting it slowly to kind of trick his way into sainthood, or his caretakers were feeding it to him and he didn't know, and that could have killed him.
I think I'm voting the latter.
I don't know. It seems like such a shisty move. If I knew I was being considered for sainthood before I even died, to kind of like tip the scale a little bit, that's kind of weird. And then that kind of runs the undercurrent of like, well, I wonder what he did do like at his orphanage, if that's like the type of person that he really is. Mm-hmm.
What did he do? I don't even want to know what he did at his orphanage.
Yeah, specifically, the preservation of his body was considered one of his 3 miracles.
Do you know what the other 2 are? Or has he had to? Or can he still perform now that he's croaked?
Well, they have to find out different ones, but there can be other things. So, like, some of the saints that have been canonized, when they are the ones that, like, weep blood or are seen like weeping after their death, that's considered a miracle, even though they've died. Even though you're dead, you could still have one of your miracles happen after your death. Or I guess it could be if something happens to someone else when they're around the corpse. I think that could be considered a miracle as well.
Right, and we'll probably kind of piece them together maybe and put it on the maybe even have its own post on www.midnighthollow.com.
And maybe we'll start a Reddit thread for our Midnight Hollow. So if you want to see these or suggest either something local or something that you want to see as an episode, you can take it into consideration and get some stuff out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Lisa, you're awful quiet back there.
Yes.
Yes.
She's texting people.
And okay, so what is now your story is about someone who witnessed events leading up to a murder that possibly have changed history.
Yes.
That sounds very dramatic.
I wanted to make it as dramatic as possible.
And who is your source for this?
He didn't actually wish for his real name to be revealed, so we're going to call him Jerome.
Jerome, okay.
This actually happens in the late 90s, 1990. Actually, can give you the date, 1998 it happens. My friends...
was 8 years old.
Were you really?
Yeah, in 1990.
I was already collecting Social Security. Go on.
So he was in his 20s, and his friend, who was a gay man, invited him out to a gay bar, back in Boston. And
I think I know where this is going. Go on.
The Devil's Hole.
Well, yeah, that's probably it too.
He was at this bar ordering a drink, and his friend was off mingling, and he happened to be sitting next to this really skeevy, creepy guy who basically went on this really long rant about how he hated women and how all of the women in his life had been so terrible to him. And my friend just got
It wasn't me, wasn't it? Okay, go on. No.
My friend just got this really weird vibe from this guy, so he kind of politely excused himself and went on his way. And towards the end of the night, when everyone was getting ready to leave, there was this transgender woman who was looking for a ride home. And she happened to ask around. A couple of people said no, but this one creepy guy that he had been talking to, this woman hater, volunteered to take her back to her place.
I like where the story's going.
Fast forward about 6-7 years later, my friend's sitting at home watching one of those crime shows on A&E where they're investigating like missing people or murders that had happened, and this woman's face popped up. She was murdered November 28th, 1998 in her apartment, and her name was Rita Hester, this transgender woman. And he is 99% sure that he knows who the murderer was, this really creepy guy. Because if you hated women that much, who would you hate more than a born woman, but someone trying to become a woman or becoming a woman?
In the story that he was watching
so
on A&E or whatever,
creepy.
did it kind of allude to the fact that that's what happened? She was taken home by some skeevy dude, or?
Nope, it didn't allude at all. He actually called the number and gave his report. But it was so much time had passed since the night of the incident that he could barely remember what the guy looked like at the time. Yes, and Rita Hester's death actually roused a national discussion on hate crimes against gay people. And her murder and lack of media attention to her death drove a candlelight vigil to begin in San Francisco next year. And it also fueled the creation of a web project entitled Remembering Our Dead, which tells the story of transgender people from around the globe who've been murdered out of prejudice and hate. So her death spurred a lot of national talk about how unfairly transgender people have not only been treated, but how they've been murdered and killed and
Covered up in the press.
covered up. Exactly.
That's crazy.
Right?
No.
Yeah, good story. Thank you. And thank you, Jerome.
Thank you, Jerome.
Jerome knows who he is.
He does.
Jerome knows who he is.
He's proud of himself.
All right, so to wrap up this story session, I got 2 questions for everyone, and they're
Oh,
gonna be.
we don't know these either.
Nope. Who wants to volunteer to be the first?
I'll throw myself to the wolves.
All right. So Johnny, I need a real quick answer.
Oh boy.
If you were a ghost, how would you have died?
In the middle of an orgasm.
Wow.
Lisa? Not in the middle of an orgasm.
Yes. Oh, you want me to answer
Yes,
for real?
yes.
Okay.
These are rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
God. Car accident.
Car accident. Nikki.
Probably running my mouth to the wrong person.
Oh, okay. So here's the second question. So you're a ghost, you've died, but where would you haunt? Where would be your haunting ground?
Marcello's. Now sponsored. No.
Lisa?
Johnny.
At Johnny's house.
I just
Not me?
move all your stuff around and
Yeah, just a little
freak
bit.
you out.
2 inches to the left
Yes.
every single day.
I actually did that to my friend when I was cat sitting. I just rearranged all of her stuff. Just slightly.
Did she notice?
She didn't tell me that she noticed. I don't think so.
And oddly enough, she's never been asked to cat sit again.
Yeah.
And Johnny, where would you haunt?
I would go one by one through former employers that I didn't like. Give them hell.
Well, that's actually a good idea. Haunt their ass. But I was listening to some of our older podcasts, and like the one about the ghost sex or the spectrophilia or whatever heck it's called, they can't leave the building where they died. So the woman that was having sex with the ghost, she couldn't have sex outside the...
Right.
So
So I wouldn't be
But
able
she
to leave
didn't
where
know-
I died.
you would have to
I have to haunt where I died.
Yeah,
No,
essentially.
all right, so like the back seat of a car.
Yeah, okay. We won't
You got to
go
piece
into
that together.
Yeah,
from what I
okay.
said in the first
I was like, oh yeah,
answer.
what now?
God, that was quick thinking.
All right, so we're going to head into the stories, just quickly, briefly go over them. The first one is, and we can thank Lisa for this, and you can thank Lisa for
Thanks, Lisa.
the visual on this one.
Hey.
Thanks, Lisa.
Again, these stories aren't necessarily supernatural, but they're just strange and weird. And so the Iowa's family basement flooded with animal blood from neighboring meat locker. Now there's...
Meat locker. There's what I call my friends.
The meat locker.
That's what they call Johnny.
I figure that's where Johnny would haunt.
Whoa.
Johnny would haunt
Haunted
the meat locker.
that sounds like a really funny haunted house to create.
So if you want to throw up a little bit, or, you can watch it. We'll have the link on
There are chunks.
in the podcast. Yes, Chunks.
Today's
I don't know if
theme
they're
is
born-
chunks.
Chunks. Yeah, that's going to be the name of the episode, Chunks.
Ew.
Then, of course, we have to have a Florida article. So, Florida man allegedly gave alligator beer, enticed reptile to bite him. That was going to be our main story, but I actually found a better one. A fantastic story that we're going to get to. But again, the Florida man one will be in the description or the contents of the podcast. Now, our grand finale, our number one story for this podcast makes me want to actually do this myself. Man speaks from beyond the grave at his own funeral in Ireland. Now you think, ooh, spooky, and that's the reason why I originally clicked it. Shay Bradley got the last laugh at his own send-off by giving mourners a shock with a hilarious pre-recorded message. He put in a speaker in his coffin, so when it was dropping, hey, let me out! And the looks on their face, it's recorded too, and you got to see it again on www.midnighthollow.com. It's only like 30 seconds long, so it's really worth the view.
I'm sure you tell that to all the women.
Yeah.
Jesus, you are just beating us up today.
It's been 6 months. I gotta get back to it.
Mourners who attended the funeral of the man in Ireland were left in shock when they heard his voice from beyond the grave. Let me out, it's dark in here, cried Shay Bradley from his coffin as it was being lowered into the ground in...
Can you do that with an Irish accent, though, so it'll be authentic?
I'm terrible at accents. Oi, let me out, it's dark in here.
What the hell is that?
I'm terrible at that. Oi!
Oi! Are you like some weird-ass pirate?
Well, if anyone knows me, that's actually my Australian accent. Oi!
Oi!
Give me some Tim Tam toy. Lowered in the ground in Kilkenny on 12th of October. Yeah, again, anyone who's ever listened, I can't pronounce anything. Kilkenny.
Kilimanjaro.
That too. And actually, there's a picture where everyone's just laughing their ass off. So that's how I want to go. So in the pre-recorded message, the voice continued, "Where the am I? Where the freak am I? Is that a pre-second here? This is Shay. I'm in the box." He then sang, "Hello again. Hello, hello. I just called to say goodbye." That's kind of sad.
Oh, boy.
Ensuring he got the last laugh on his own send-off, the 60-year-old Irish Defence Force veteran had his family and friends in fits of giggle rather than tears. Mr. Bradley's daughter, Andrea Bradley, said he had been sick for 3 years before he died on 8th of October and had planned his prank over the last year. She told Sky News he was always full of life and he was a big stature, but even bigger in personality. So it goes on to kind of talk about his life, and he was just kind of a big goofball. So this was not like necessarily a big surprise to anyone.
Who did that for him if the family didn't know and didn't arrange it?
I think his daughter did
Yeah.
it with him.
Yeah, his daughter,
Set it up to happen?
yeah, at the end of the, like, kind of placed it in there when they closed the coffin. And then when they lowered it down, she had a
control.
remote and hit it. All right, so... yeah, we're back, and we plan on doing what every 3 weeks. That's probably good, right? Every 3 weeks.
Oi.
Oi, every 3 weeks, oi. Bring your Tim Tams. Yeah.
Can you say deck in an Australian accent?
Dick?
That's the only word you can say with an Australian accent.
Tim Tams. I can say Tim Tams. And see, I just said it in Australian.
What's a Tim Tams?
Oh, they're delicious, wafery little chocolate nougat thing. Just amazing little things from Australia that are addictive.
They're things.
I drooled. Hello. All right.
That recording is gonna
You gotta have that. I drooled a little.
Oh man! All right. Yeah, we're back, and we no longer have our old swallow
Don't say it.
saying "I'm not." If you want to know what it is, you'll have to listen to an entire previous episode to get to it.
I'm
But-
sorry.
Or
Yeah.
you can,
Doing
or you can
anyway,
fast
yeah.
forward like right to the end of
Yeah.
it.
No, don't do that. I don't want to get yelled at, but I'm still going to do it. Nikki, do you have anything to add to the podcast? Because the last few times I asked her that, she's like, "I think I contributed enough to this podcast."
Have a happy Halloween.
Oh yes, this is our Halloween episode. So yes, everyone have a happy. Oh.
God damn
I'm
it,
so glad
Jim.
it's
Jim.
very. Hey,
Oh
I
my
waited
God.
to 40 some minutes. That's never happened to me. But 40-some minutes, that's... Anyways.
No.
Lisa,
It's like
before
one
I...
for every year of your age.
Yes, it's one for every dollar bill on my Social Security check. No. Lisa, do you have anything to add to this podcast?
Nope.
Anyone sweating in here? Is it just me?
No, I am.
Yeah, I'm sweating. I got ball sweat. Okay.
Oh my
I
God.
didn't go that far.
How
with it.
are we going
I'm
to get
not there.
sponsored, guys?
I'm not
Well,
there.
we can get sponsored by
Sweaty balls.
There's
We're not going to get sponsored
There's this
from
other
this
bond.
episode.
Yeah.
there's this men's underwear that like helps you with your sweaty balls, so we can. And that's for real. I forgot the name of it. I think it's called Bear Hug or something like
Yeah,
that.
is that the Luth?
It's just for bears.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's.
Which we are
I've
sitting
seen
with
it
too.
advertised on one of my favorite podcasts, or on my favorite YouTube channel. But Johnny, anything to add to this Halloweeny episode?
Check your candy, kids.
Yes. Make sure there's no roofies in it. Make sure you don't get anything from Bill Cosby.
No one's going to spend their drugs on children. They don't like them that much
That's what I used to tell my parents all the time. Same
to
thing.
give them free drugs.
Yeah. They used to always, you're going to cut this out anyways, but I'd be smoking pot. My mom would find my pot, and she's like, where are you getting that from? What if that's laced with something? I'm like, no one's going to give me
I
free
found it
PCP.
in
Like,
my Halloween
are you
candy.
kidding me? No one's going to, like, you ain't getting that stuff for free.
Unless it's Bill Cosby. And he likes you.
No, I don't know.
And you get a pound cake from him. Anyways, okay. We're slowly sliding down the...
You see that drop? It's our advertisers
Yeah, exactly.
just jumping
You guys
off
are the
a
ones
cliff.
that you're like, guys, you have to be good. And you guys are the ones, you're doing it to yourself.
You've literally
played yourself.
mentioned your
I
ball
do it to
sack
myself
like 9
every
times.
morning. It doesn't really matter.
And
I didn't
my
say
God.
anybody's
It
got to be
relaxes
good.
Number
me.
10.
I didn't say anybody's got to be good.
No.
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 Well-
Don't finish that sentence.
That
Well,
they're not.
thank you for
That's
listening
enough.
to Midnight Hollows podcast. Midnight Hollows podcast, episode 5 of season 2, and I hope to you listen to our next one as well, which will not be the Halloween episode. Midnight Hollow, where you can get your strange on.
No.
That's what it was, wasn't it?
No.
it's just
where you can get your some strange.
Oh.
you can get some strange.
Midnight Hollow, where you can get some
No.
strange.
It's getting some strange.
Where you can get some strange.
You
Midnight
watch
Hollow,
Stranger
getting some
Things?
strange.
Getting some strange, yeah.
I just feel like there's no action to it. It's like I feel like it ends prematurely.
Well, then it's pretty fitting.
What was that fitting? All right. Well, we'll work it out. We'll iron it out. We'll figure it out.
We're getting our shit together, guys. Slowly but surely.
All right. Bye.
But surely.
All right.
Damn. Yeah. Yeah.